Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're here representing Windsor Girls School. My name is Cherry and I'm the chairperson. I'm joined today by Kira and Nicole, who will be talking on the topic of reparations. Should reparations be paid to victims of slavery? A really complex and polarizing question which has been argued back and forwards countless times. And today we're going to explore this in more detail. As defined in the Oxford Dictionary, reparation is the act of making amends for a wrong one has done, whether this be through payments or other assistance to those who have been wronged. People have been enslaved for thousands of years. This is dating back to slave labour which was used to build the pyramids in ancient Egypt. Over the course of history, slavery has taken many different forms, including debt slavery. In lieu of repaying a debt, the debtor takes the debtor into slavery. Enslavement of war captives, for example, the 2,500 prisoners of war taken from the Caribbean and enslaved in Portchester Castle, Hampshire, in 1796. And military slavery, the systematic use of slaves as soldiers. For example, the Confederate Army in the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865. So Q will be arguing for payment of reparations and discussing why victims should be paid and compensated for the hardships that they face. She will highlight racial inequalities that are still present in today's society, drawing a parallel with racial injustices of the past. This brings to light different forms that reparations could take, with the potential to bring about positive social change rather than individual enrichment. Taking the opposing position, Nicole's argument will detail the challenges associated with the decision to pay reparations. She will discuss the logistical obstacles and the difficulties of funding such a potentially vast expense, as well as potential conflict when defining the scope of who should pay and who should receive reparations. I'll now pass over to Kia, who will be exploring why reparations should be paid.
So, should we give reparations to victims of slavery? Well, as the chairperson mentioned before, reparations are given as an apology or an acknowledgement that something that has happened was wrong or unfair. So isn't it fair to offer reparations to victims of such a cruel crime? Things like racial violence, discrimination, and systemic racism are still faced in today's world. That is what makes paying reparations all the more important, as it highlights the fact that whilst we don't have the slave trade anymore, we still, as a society, haven't progressed in our attitudes towards minority groups. By paying reparations, it shows acknowledgement of past and current wrongdoings, and it also creates awareness of how minority groups are still treated as inferior. A common misconception is that the aim of paying reparations is just economical and purely a way to gain money. But many campaigners for reparations, such as Esther Stanford from the Society of Black Lawyers and also the member of the Reparations Campaign, state that when we talk about reparations, people think that it's about money. But it's about making repairs, be they economic or social, to Africa and to African descendants in Europe. Campaigners are fighting for an apology for the exploitation of the slavery victims, be it forced, unpaid labour, or the physical and psychological torture that these victims have faced. Campaigners just want justice, and who are we to deny that? Not only do the Reparations Act as an apology for the psychological and physical torture that these victims have faced, but it is important to consider the economic effect of slavery and the rippling effects on benefiting countries. By taking strong and healthy men, women, and even children, slave owners were left behind for the elderly who were deemed to be too weak. This meant that there was a setback for Africa's overall economy, as they had taken away the people who were more likely to work to earn for a living. Therefore, a diminishing population and also the threat of captivity planted the ever-flourishing seed for the decline of the overall African economy. As an example, during the 1850s, at the peak of slavery, the overall population of the USA was 31.5 million people. According to research by criticalgrowth.org, there were approximately 7,875,000 people who were slaves, out of the 39.5 million, meaning that 25% of the population were enslaved. Let that sink in. A quarter of the USA's population at the time was slaves. 7,875,000 people that were kidnapped and unjustly forced into the confines of slavery. Additionally, the slaves were working under unpaid labour, therefore reiterating the fact that the economic effect of slavery was significant, especially in the USA. Furthermore, other than the unpaid labour, vital resources were forcefully removed from their nations. Multiple countries today are still benefiting from the economic boom brought about by slavery. For instance, let's say we were to travel the globe and pinpoint an African country. Imagine we landed on South Africa, where the natives were exploited for blood diamonds, or Nigeria, where crude oil continues to be extracted and still undervalued. What do these two places have in common? They were treated as collateral damage in the pursuit of riches, their human rights completely disregarded, and yet even after all this time, they are still waiting for the common courtesy known as an apology, let alone reparations to compensate for their disadvantages. Here's a key analogy to help put this all into perspective. Let's say there are two running teams in a race, Team A and Team B. For many, many years, Team B has had hurdles on their track acting as obstacles, meaning that Team A consistently won. Now, in the present day, Team B has had those hurdles removed from their track, so you would think that would give them an equal chance of success, right? Wrong. Due to Team A's consistent success, they have more funding, more training, more sponsorships, and therefore even better equipment, so they still win. So, even though the old slave trade has come to a halt, simple apologies have not eliminated the horrendous disadvantages that they still face in this day and age. Therefore, reparations must be paid.
It is fair to say that victims of any injustice, including slavery, which is arguably the greatest injustice of all, should be compensated adequately. In a utopian society, it is deemed reasonable to give a current generation of individuals a right to reverse wrongs of their ancestors. In this context, 21st century individuals will bear the cost of repaying generations of victims of slavery. Is this the right solution? From a logistical point of view, it is almost impossible to locate the necessary funds needed to finance such a vast expense. To start with, all nations cannot be asked to contribute to compensation efforts, as not all paid for the slave trade 150 years ago. Let's take, for instance, the country where the slaves originated from, before they were unjustly kidnapped, shipped across the world against their will. Are you suggesting that their victims themselves pay for their own reimbursement? As American journalist Ta-Nehisi Coates once said, many of us love to attack for things we are solely and individually responsible for. There are many flaws in this argument, one being how, you may ask, are we to determine who is responsible for slavery? This question has been posed by many, and yet to this day we have no answer for it. Some campaigners argue that those alive today should not be held accountable for the actions that transpired 150 years ago, as since neither party, victim of slavery nor slaveholder, is currently alive, and therefore not responsible. When public reparations is brought up, a common oversight is made on the reparations are directed towards. If I were to ask this question right now, it is quite likely that your first thoughts on victims of slavery would be those who suffered 150 years ago. However, unknown to many, slavery is a problem in our society today. In fact, as I stand here talking to you right now, according to the International Labour Organization, there are an estimated 40 million people in slavery worldwide today. As of 2018, India had the most slaves, with a total of 8 million enslaved people, a fact I didn't know until research. Instead of suggesting reparations be paid to those who are no longer alive to reap the benefits, those of humanitarian action should be taken to combat modern-day slavery and save those we still can. As C.S. Lewis once said, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start now and change the ending. We cannot go back and erase the history of slavery. It has happened, and have to live its effects long after people like you and me have left it. But we can save victims of modern-day slavery today. We can blame on people for exposing such cruel injustice. Many campaigners have argued that reparations are the equivalent to an apology, and as such, aim to right the wrongs of slavery. An apology is undoubtedly owed to these people. Should we aim to absolve the wrongs of the past by simply flaunting money at the problem? Is that what the world as we know it has become? Overrun by the capitalist mantra of money conquering all. Reparations can also be paid to the victims in monetary form, as this will not reverse the damage of the slave trade. Instead, a better education on the history of slavery should be taught in schools worldwide with input from those affected. And this will prevent more mass inhumane behaviour from ever occurring again. In addition to the introduction of more well-rounded education in schools, greater humanitarian action should be taken to combat modern-day slavery, such as organisations and charities that will aim to help the victims. This way, a more proactive approach can be taken, and it ensures a long-lasting legacy, which modern reparations simply would not have gained.
Thank you, Fiona Nicole, for your insightful and thought-provoking arguments. It's a really interesting topic, and I think both sides have argued their points really well. We've heard from Kia about the reasons why reparations should be paid, and that these don't necessarily need to be financial and could take other forms, possibly driving lasting societal changes. However, we've also listened to Nicole's valid points about the logistical obstacles, which could prevent reparations from being decided upon, or actually defined and paid. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you found this informative and engaging. It's a really complicated topic, and it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out over the next coming years. Having heard both sides of the argument, I hope you've enjoyed it today.
Thank you. Do you want to lead the way, Richard?
Yeah, fine. Thank you, Windsor girls. I haven't been teaching there for a little while, but the standards certainly haven't dropped. In fact, that's such a well-articulated argument from both sides, very intelligent, and on, again, a really tricky discussion. I'll hand over to you, and if I may, just pass over to you to give some feedback, and then I'd like to say.
Hi, I'm Fiona. I think your performance was very informative and you obviously had a clear understanding of the topic. My only suggestion would be to project your voices more, but overall I think you showed confidence and it was very good.
I'm Ida. I found the topic really fascinating. I think I learned a lot and definitely gave me plenty to think about. I like the structure of it, how you sort of summarised at the end, reminded us of your key points. And throughout your speeches when you would repeat sort of key statistics to really emphasise them. I think you can be confident in what you're saying, so don't feel worried about, you can slow down, you can talk. It's very interesting to listen to, so just have confidence in what you're saying.
Yeah, so another great debate. Use a lot of rhetorical devices, so I'm sure English teachers are very happy with that. Your arguments are very well made with a clear logic, clear development in there, and I like how you offered a solution as well instead of just pointing out the flaws, so that was very good. Kind of similar to these, again, just be a bit more relaxed with your body language, but yeah, overall very good, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's, as well, you didn't use any notes. And that's incredible because actually you weren't just riffing. The things that you were saying were absolutely spot on. Right down to the quotes and everything. You can't get C.S. Lewis wrong. It's important to get those things right. But yeah, this room's got great acoustics, and I think we could hear you. But when you're asking an audience to sort of lean in on you, let the words wave across us. It was a very good debate, and you brought in a humane issue that has, but also very political and economical points to it as well. So it's really complicated. But I think you're right. Education around this subject is the greatest tool, I think, for us as a world to get over the things that we've done as people. And we've recently had Black History Month at school, and I think this event here you gave us all an education with what you've delivered tonight. So thank you very much. Well done.
Well done.